No, I didn't print this off. I mean, I don't do my wife.
And he's got an IQ quite high as mine. I mean, that dog. You know, he likes ice cube. He likes cube. And when I go get him when he wants it, he's ready to jump up, put his paws on the Spencer, and Spencer makes scoops out of tank. Hey, dog's trying to be knowing that they got something.
That's funny.
But he is well trained.
Well, I mean, the damn thing started digging, you know, it was Saturday, and I didn't have to go anywhere with kids. In the yard, there's stumps to burn out, and so it started, and I'm like, all right, bath time tonight. At some point, you're staying outside the rest of the afternoon. Kind of do an old fire pit, so I had all the old stuff. Yeah, windows is all brown.
How old is he?
6 months.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, mine's a year and a half, he's still a puppy.
Oh, yeah, no.
When these kids grow up.
So I got myself, we're going to take the trailer out.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, we're gonna go to also, Swiss County. Kids have a hockey tournament in DC, so I planned in advance, first time ever I've done something in advance. And got to go to the White House, so it should be, I mean, definitely, that's at least worth
It's pretty
the
cool.
ridiculous trip.
They take you into some of the more notoriety rooms, and they give you the whole, you know, history on some of the paintings and just cores.
That's awesome.
It's I'm a big history buff, so it's a big highlight of mine. I've gone three or four times.
There's a lot of, like, 11 and under kids.
Yeah.
We'll probably push through quick.
I was gonna say you won't be the stragglers, that's for sure.
I think you can spend 2 or 3 days in the Smithsonian. Easily.
Oh, yeah.
And still.
Hopefully they don't shut down.
Good evening, everyone. Would like to go ahead and call the meeting to order for February 5th, 2019 of the Union County Plating Board. First thing we'd like to address is to welcome all of you and mention that if you plan to speak, whether for or against the Poplin Road project, we would ask you to come to this side of the podium up there. There's a sign-in sheet. Please sign in, print your name, and write legibly so we can see it, okay? If not, then we could consider there'll be no comments being made. Got one coming here. Tonight we're starting a new procedure on how we run the meeting, thanks to our planning department. And so if y'all will bear with us, we will make this happen.
Chairman, if you don't mind, I think also don't want the public to think that if during the meeting that someone wants to speak, that you couldn't ask to actually come up, put your name on the list, and then speak. I don't think that's the intention. It's just for us to have a record, because we obviously have to keep a record of what occurred at the meeting. The easiest way is you sign up in the beginning, that's fine, but if for some reason you decide you want to speak, and the public meeting's still going on, you can ask the chairman to allow that. We can certainly have you sign in, and that way it's still part of the record. Is there anyone to ask them to speak?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. Continuing on with the agenda, as we look here to the front, we do have a quorum. Would like to mention our two alternates, Christopher, Robert. Any comments or questions, feel free to ask them at any time when we're in a comment section of the meeting, okay? ask you to take a look at the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions that need to be made?
Move to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda, okay. Do we have a second? Okay, second has been made, no negatives. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. So we have the approval. You received in your package also the January 9th, 2019 minutes. Hope you've had a chance to read those. If not, would ask that you please take a minute to look at those minutes, and we will ask for approval to accept or amend whatever comes up for discussion.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Motion's been made by Chris. Thank you, Chris. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Charlie. All those in favor, raise your hand. We have a unanimous vote, okay? No need for a negative call. Next item on the agenda is the Poplar Road Mixed Residential Discussion, CZ 2018-009. Bjorn, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. We do have a couple of presentations. One are the exhibits from the applicant with some renderings and the overall site plan. We also have planning maps and overall assessment of the community. But first, I'll just read the background with the narrative of what's being requested. This is a request to amend the zoning map of Union County by rezoning a parcel of land from RA40 residential agricultural, 40,000 square foot minimum lot size, to R4CZ, residential 4,000 minimum or square foot minimum lot size conditional district. The applicant requests the rezoning in order to develop the property as an apartment complex and residential subdivision consisting of townhomes and detached single-family homes. Uses on the site, if approved, would be limited to single-family residential uses, townhomes, and an apartment complex. Since this is a conditional rezoning request, the district is bound by all conceptual plans and conditions approved as a part of the process. The applicant is proposing several restrictions on the property, including a conceptual layout of the development, conceptual elevations, setbacks, lot sizes, etc. The proposal is for 264 apartment units, 60 townhome units, and 90 single-family housing units on 58.4 acres, which would yield approximately 7.1 units per acre density. The typical single-family lot size is 50 by 120, or 6,000 square feet, but the proposal would allow for a minimum lot size of 4,000 square feet and no more than 90 single-family lots. The requested setback for the single-family lots are 20 feet to the front, 5 feet to the side, and 25 to the rear. I'll now go through the maps that we developed to show the overall area. So recent photographs of the area. This section of Poplar Road was recently constructed as a part of the Monroe Expressway project, connects in with Unionville Indian Trail Road. To the north, it would connect in with Bonterra Village Way, which serves essentially as a service drive, connecting back to the north and giving access to the Bonterra neighborhood. The area is largely undeveloped with some large lot single-family residential. It is adjacent to Indian Trail in several locations. Bonterra is here on the north. The expressway is right there, the interchange, and the remaining area to the northeast is largely unincorporated. In terms of the development status, it's a mix of some subdivisions and some existing medium and large lot residential with very large lots and then undeveloped areas. This is just to give an illustration of the types of development in the area. And the structures, the reason why you see quite a few not being shown within Bonterra is because the structure layer is from 2007 based on the most recent imaging that was done of the county. Zoning for the area is overwhelmingly large lot, single family, roughly 1 unit to the acre, regardless of whether you're in Indian Trail or in Union County. The much more dense area is Bonterra, and there's a little bit of commercial on the other side near Secret Shortcut that is within Indian Trail.
Bjorn, what is Bonterra's lot size? Do you know?
Well, SF5, that would be, what, 5,000 square feet? That's Indian Trail zoning.
I think that's their minimum lot size. In Indian Trail, I think 5,000 is their minimum lot size.
So we're looking at about 1,000-foot drop on this one.
Again, the 4,000 is the minimum they can go, that's not necessarily what they're proposing.
Sure.
They certainly could go down to 4,000.
Okay, but Von Terry, you think is the, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And don't forget that it doesn't show on here, but there is a piece that was previously rezoned with townhomes. Can you point to that one, Bjorn?
That is it this parcel or this
That
parcel?
one, yeah, that one there.
Right here. That hasn't shown.
The
Has,
other one beside
this
it.
one? Okay.
Yeah.
This is recent rezone, but it doesn't come up in our maps yet. At least not as of November.
So that was the one that came to the board back last year. It was townhomes, I believe it's like 99 units, came to be a little over 8 units to the acre. So that's rezoned. It doesn't show on the map because this is again older data, but I did want to point out that that also was approved by the county, not to, sometime in late 2000.
Can you just run your mouse over where it was again?
Right here.
Thank you.
Environmental features, there are streams in the area and a little bit of wetland, but mainly this is high ground and doesn't have many features on it. In terms of transportation, Poplar Road, you can see the new right-of-way, Bonterra Village Way, going to the northwest. This is from the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. We're actually in the midst of updating the road network file based on the new expressway opening to reflect that Poplar Road no longer goes right here. It goes along here. But the recommendation for Poplar, 2-lane road, Unionville Indian Trail Road's multi-lane, Secret Shortcuts multi-lane, and the expressway is what it is. None of these are funded for widening anytime soon, but they are the cross sections that we would reference when we talk about right-of-way dedication or setbacks in order to protect the corridor to make it easier to widen when the time comes. Volumes, Bonterra Village Way, which would be Poplar Road, this count would be reflecting 2017, 5,200 cars a day. Unionville Indian Trail in the low teens, although there isn't a count in this immediate area. The land use plan recommended for this area is for mixed residential, and there is a node at the interchange itself for a neighborhood center that would allow for a lot more flexibility in terms of commercial as well as mixed-use developments such as residential on top of retail, things like that. More density would be supported at the interchange. And the reason why the next map comes up is because between the town of Indian Trail and the county, we felt that this didn't give us enough specificity to react to developments like this because it's just a broad swath of saying, yeah, higher density residential supported in this area, but it doesn't tell us a lot more than that. So this past year between Indian Trail and Union County, we completed the Secret Shortcut Small Area Plan, which is the area that's colored in. That's the extent of the study area boundary, and it shows our rezoning parcels on there as well. The brown would be your highest density, and this is an average of 6 units per acre. We would understand that in areas that have more environmental features, you're going to have less of a yield, and in areas that are closer to an interchange or potentially a commercial center, which this is, we would support higher densities than 6. The yellow is medium density, that'd be 3 units per acre average, and then you don't, well, you see a little bit up there that's open space environmentally sensitive, it's floodplain area. If we zoomed this map out, there would be the lowest density, which is around 1 to 1.5 units per acre. Commercial is shown on this side of Unionville Indian Trail Road, which is currently actively being developed through a rezoning process through the town to do approximately 500 units and perhaps a couple 100,000 square feet of commercial. So what's being rezoned as a proposal is consistent with this plan. The plan that is going through Union County right now has the townhomes in this area single family in this area, and then the apartments over here. So it's pretty consistent with what was identified within the small area plan. And this small area plan, what we want to note is the overall yield, if you were to build it all out, rezone it all according to these plan recommendations, was exactly the same in terms of the number of dwelling units between this plan and this one. It was about 2,800 units over 2 square miles. What differs is that this one includes probably 4 to 5 times as much non-residential, a lot of commercial, which is the red, and then employment, which is the purple, and is largely the strip between Seacrest Shortcut and the Monroe Expressway, which isn't very attractive for residential because it's sandwiched between 2 high-volume roads. So that's the mindset that went into the development of this plan, as a refinement of what was there before. The notified properties, this is just to, I'm sorry.
Could you back up, please?
Yes, sir.
The mixed use, could you explain that a little bit?
Mixed use is an overlay that it's pretty common on the higher density and on the commercial areas to allow for flexibility, especially when you're in those transition areas between, say, the commercial and the residential, or the higher density and moderate density. Allows for a lot more creativity and integration of different residential types. In this area, it would be recommended for primarily single family. That's about what you would get at 3 units per acre, unless they wanted to cluster it into townhomes and keep a lot of the land set aside as open space. So these recommendations are really tied to the overall densities and not to the housing types. But the hashed areas is where, you know, you're close to an interchange, and we want to be responsive to market demands, and that's why when you're closer to the interchanges, you're going to see mixed use put in a lot more, because we just can't predict what they're necessarily going to say the market's demanding in this area. So in terms of notified properties, the owners of the properties in red were contacted as a part of the outreach process for the community meetings. You might see ones over here in Seacrest Shortcut because the property actually crosses over, it straddles the Monroe Expressway. It was split when the road was built and the land was acquired. So unless you have any questions about these slides, I'll go on and present the rendering of the site plan and some of the housing types that are shown within the application, and then turn it over to the applicant to explain them in greater detail. Popland Road, you see quite a bit of buffering, approximately 50 to 60 feet on both sides, that continues the topology from the Bonterra development. You see some equestrian, you know, some horses and fencing along their frontage. We have a lot of buffering along Popland Road, have turn lanes that will be required at all entrances per the NCDOT. The roads in the multifamily and the single family component would all be built to public standard, and the multifamily component would have 30-foot wide roads, which is 8 feet wider than normal, which would allow for parking on one side, which I know has been a concern with fire as well as the NCDOT for traffic to be able to get through, because typically you can't fit all your cars in the parking spots or in the garage of townhomes. So these roads will be wider than normal. This road will be built to a collector street standard and stubbed out to the edge. So in case this area ever develops, this road will be allowed to continue, and we purposefully had the homes not fronting along it, so therefore we wouldn't have as much complaint about cut-through traffic if and when this road is extended and developed. There was previously a cul-de-sac of this road to the edge with some homes here, but due to feedback from the community meeting, that was eliminated, as well as trails along the edge of the property. But there are trails elsewhere throughout the site. There are sidewalks on all the roads. There, at the end of this cul-de-sac, there is a pedestrian connection to Popland Elementary School. The apartment complex on the other side of Poplar Road will all be private and has a connection to both Bonterra Village and to Poplar, has 2 access points. They'll have turn lanes. Again, you have additional buffering, and you have the opportunity for not necessarily a vehicular connection to any development that may occur along Unionville Indian Trail Road within the town of Indian Trail, but the landscaping would allow for pedestrian access to cross over in both areas. You see the sidewalk shown there from the edge of the townhouse area. In particular, that's important because this is where the commercial node would be that's currently being proposed within the town of Indian Trail. Are there any questions about the site?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
At your neighborhood meeting, community meeting report, there were 4 issues that were identified. Are all 4 of those resolved?
The additional site conditions that were requested regarding a black metal fence, which I think was along this property, Mike, is that correct? Is the fencing, was it required along here? I just have the property numbers, but not necessarily, the parcel numbers, not necessarily the location of it. There was black metal fence was requested, again, for the walking trail along here to not be allowed, for street lights, flood and security lighting to be cutoff fixtures so that the light is very directed so you don't have nearly as much glare. 6-inch sewer connection to adjacent parcel for future development, and stormwater regulations to not increase stormwater flow onto adjacent parcels. Those are the conditions that we have.
So the planning department is satisfied with that all that's been remedied?
Those are included as conditions.
Thank you very much.
And then
What about the lighting?
the lighting is just about a specific type of head, which I believe
Right.
there's a picture in here.
Was that resolved?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yep, so again with the cutoff, so the light is more directed and fencing. Here's the list of the site conditions. So in terms of the single-family housing, some images of potential types showing the exterior materials. Here's a more detailed layout of the exterior materials. In terms of townhomes, they would have garages. In terms of the apartment complexes, 3 stories. And these are from a development, I believe, in Lake Wiley that was also built by the same applicant. And notes about the exterior materials, stoner, brick, hardy board. And the landscaping along Poplar Road that was shown as a part of the conditions that we requested along Poplar Road to continue the same type of character from the Bonterra development.
Any other comments?
This concludes my presentation.
Okay. Is the applicant here?
Applicant is here.
Okay. Would you like to come forward, please, and state your name, who you're with?
So you're gonna let the applicant actually do a presentation? Because I think the applicant's here in general.
Yep.
So I think before you open it up to the public, I would certainly allow the applicant to do the presentation. Then you can open it.
Yeah. Good. What we're gonna do.
This will be fine.
I didn't miss that.
Hello, my name is Mike Scott. I live in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Tonight I've brought with me our manager who's with us from the beginning of the process, and she'll be out here if this is approved for the entirety of as long as we own it, which we plan on owning it forever. This is our engineer, Sarah Shirley. She's with American Engineering, and she can answer any technical questions if you guys have anything that you would like to ask. Having not done this before with you guys, I'll just give a brief of who I am. My name is Mike Scott. I actually worked in the planning department at York County for roughly 18 years, starting back in 1985. I left there and went into land development. I have a partner, and he and I started doing commercial single-family projects early on, and sadly for me in 2008 came around, and we went through that bad time with everyone else. What we found out during that time is that a multifamily component, utilizing that as our anchor, was a saving grace. There's a big need for that, and it's something that we found out getting involved in it roughly 8 years ago was a key cornerstone for our developments. Our multifamily projects that we started was probably about 5. We did 2 in Fort Mill, 1 on Lake Wylie itself, 2 in Rock Hill, and then we purchased a small one in Fort Mill. The reason we're here tonight is I actually coach softball, and 2 of our players at Winthrop College one at Winthrop College and one that's playing now at Western Carolina, lived out in this area, went to school at Porter Ridge. So I would travel out here, watch them play, and fell in love with the area. My partner and I, when we find projects to do, we try to be early on. So we purchase the properties at a little higher rate, and we try to do a very quality thing before everybody else comes. We've been looking in Indian Trail, Union County, Stallings, Monroe for a little over a year. We had actually put under contract a property in Indian Trail, and we just didn't feel it was the right fit for us buying it. It was already entitled. And when we found this property, dealing with the residents that live there, I think there's 5 total now. Originally there were 2. And we just fell in love with this property. We fell in love with those individuals. And we started working on it roughly probably 7, 8 months ago. During that 7 or 8 months, we have changed the plan substantially. Tried to use my background to make sure that it is something that not only would be successful for us, but would hopefully be something that would enhance the neighborhood. In doing it, it's kind of like softball. We cut a lot of players, so a lot of lots left early on. We changed the location of where the multifamily was based on the plan that the Seacrest plan, they called for it on the other side of the road, was the most advantageous location. So we went out and spoke to some other property owners, and were able to pick up 2 additional parcels. We also picked up 1 more additional parcel, so we'd have access out to the elementary school. So I think we're dealing with 5 different individuals, and hopefully if this can get approved, we would like to purchase that property and then develop it with single-family, townhomes, and then the multifamily component. Just want to touch briefly on the multifamily component. That is our wheelhouse. That is the part that myself and my partner, and Savannah, we will be involved with that, not just from the conception, but we will be involved in the actual development of it. We have our own building company called Insight Construction. After we construct it, we have our own management team. Myself and Savannah will be looking out after that, and we will actually operate it and run it in its entirety. We have no thought process of selling. We've built 5. We have sold 1 early on, and we kept the rest since then. In doing the multifamily component, something that I'm just sharing with you so that we're all kind of have a great understanding of it, they're not like apartments they were 30 years ago. These are very nice. They have a fitness center. They have an area that people go in to do their office work, that we keep printers and computers and stations like that. There's a conference room inside. You've got the swimming pool. You have outside parks for dogs. You have walking areas. It's just a community like you would expect if you went on a vacation, but at the same time, they're not out of reach, so people can afford to be there. They're not cheap, but at the same time, it provides a need. Something I realized tonight, the three of us are 3 of the 4 typical people that would live in an apartment. One, somewhat of my age, doesn't want to deal with the honey-do kind of list. I don't want to fix anything, don't want to mow the lawn, don't want to pay property tax. We moved there for that purpose. Someone, in the case of Sarah, who has a very young child, is looking to build a home somewhere else, lives there temporary, and then moves into the next stage in their life, which would be a single-family unit. And then someone like Savannah, who happens to be single, by choice, I believe. And they move in the area, and they move into an apartment, just, again, based on the cost of that and not getting tied down to a home until they decide what they're going to do. The fourth person is typically, sadly, divorces. Husband or wife is wanting to stay near home, so they do move into the multifamily components. And I went back and checked some of mine, and I'm leading this up to a point. I went back and checked the 4 others that we own, and one in particular, Marlin Bay, the one in Clover. I have a relationship with the school. I found out of the 240 units that were there were 16 high school students there. Out of the 16 high school students, 9 had already lived in the area, so there were 7 new out of the 240, which is a very, very small percentage of high school kids that is generated by a multifamily component. Now that number is not consistent to say if we have 264, we only have 10 high school kids. But it does show that the chances of having a lot of increase in the school system based on the multifamily component is not the same as single family and townhomes. On the single family and townhome component, we want those nice. I'm estimating that they'll start in the low 300s. We've talked to several builders. We're trying to make a decision to finalize that. Meritage and Shea Homes currently are the 2 that we have been talking to, but we also have been talking to possibly an age-restricted type of developer. So we are looking into that. I've never done that before, but the key thing for us is we have to maintain a very nice product, not just because of our integrity, but because it helps us. We charge a good bet for the units themselves, so we can't have anything that would be compatible that they would just buy a home instead of renting from us. With that said, I'm sure there's a lot more I could tell you, but I won't waste the entire night. But we're open to any questions that you may have. And the last thing I'll lead you to is basically we're like Chick-fil-A. We really do provide a product that we look for good service, we have quality, and we're here to make the customer happy. So whatever it is that the Planning Commission would like, hopefully if we haven't met it, we would implement that. And we want to work towards having a long-standing relationship with you, because as this is being developed, there will definitely be other things that will be coming before you, and I'm hoping we'll be a part of that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Scott. You ladies have anything you'd like to say?
No, we're here for questions.
Okay, all right, good deal. Okay, thank you. At this time, questions from the board?
I have one.
Yes.
It looks like on the one side, anybody who has children could literally walk to the elementary school. And you have a pedestrian crosswalk for the apartment buildings. But I was just wondering, it was said that there's going to be sidewalks all around. Could those people walk across the street and walk all the way to the school as well?
That's correct. They've lined the access points up, the driveways.
Yeah.
And the driveways each will have sidewalks on them. And then we will paint lines, depending if the state allows us, paint lines to show crosswalk to go across the street as well.
And those children and their parents could walk all the way to the school without adding to the traffic?
That is correct.
Yeah, we have one crosswalk location shown currently, and it's where the cursor, the little hand cursor is right now. We'd be open to adding a second too, of course, depending on traffic feedback.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Chris?
I guess people who sit on the board know me as far as traffic goes. Looking at the broader development aspect, I love the development. Don't get me wrong in any stretch of the imagination. I think it fits in with the plan, you know, having the transition between the commercial and such. I guess, talk to me a little bit about your access points from your roads going onto Bonterra Village and then Popland Road that's going to terminate at Waxahachie Trail. Waxahachie Trail is going to be a 4-lane?
North of the league. So the, there you go. Yes, that way.
Which road are you referring to?
Waxahachie Trail? Or, I'm sorry,
It's
Indian Trail
Unionville,
Road.
Indian Trail.
Yeah, sorry. Wrong side of 74.
Talking about Unionville Indian Trail?
Yeah, Unionville Indian Trail.
They are shown on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement for multi-lane. They are not funded, and even if they were in need and were on a list right now, they wouldn't be built for a decade. So there's no improvements through here.
So I guess my concern is bottlenecks at the time of main transportation time, morning commutes, evening
You
commutes.
got the interstate, they can get right on the interstate.
No, I get that, but getting to the interstate is what I'm talking about.
Very easy.
Well, unless you're living there.
The traffic impact analysis that was done for this development was also done on the heels of this large development, which has about 7 to 8 times as much traffic generation potential because
Okay.
it has a large commercial component and has about 50% more units. That development would be required to put in a signal as well as make turn lane improvements at this intersection. Therefore, this development is frankly taking advantage of those improvements to get through here.
That's what I'm looking for, to see, you know, what's gonna be done at that intersection and
More turn lanes and a signal. And then for every access point into their development, they'd have to put in left-hand turn lanes and likely deceleration lanes. But if this development on the south side is not approved, does not happen, recession happens and this development goes ahead and the other one doesn't, the traffic impact analysis would be revisited and it would have to look at the performance of this intersection without that development, and they may be required to put in some improvements based on that. Honestly, it's who comes first. And they're both occurring at roughly the same schedule right now.
And that other piece is in Indian Trail. is that
That's
right?
correct.
The one
You don't
south.
see- you don't- the
Yeah, it's
one
down
that's
here.
on that- You don't see, that doesn't have municipal boundaries on it, but that's not coming to us as a Indian Trail project.
Yeah, and I guess my concern is that Popland is going to become the main artery coming down, correct, to get towards
That's correct.
either Bonterra or, right. So,
correct.
you know, how far ahead are we looking at, you know, lighting that intersection with the traffic signal or whatever else?
It's really gonna depend on, who goes first. And so if Indian Trail approves theirs and they start construction, and obviously that's gonna dictate the signal. And that will be part of the approval of the project. That could take 2 years. I mean, obviously, it depends on how long it takes from start to finish. But we don't know if that's gonna get approved at this point in time, so we can't really answer that question right now. It's really who goes first and whether or not the other project.
Lauren, can you show where the interstate's at? The
It's right there.
bypass?
It's right there.
It's a red line.
And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about coming off Popland Road, so you've got
Yeah,
either
right
got, I'm talking about your left turns off Popland to go the other way or right way. I get it that, again, I like it, I think that fits in with the comprehensive plan. I'm just concerned about that intersection turning left or turning right out of there in morning traffic with people trying to get on the expressway. That will be controlled theoretically or hopefully, but, you know, that's my only,
I wish we could give you number one, this area is shown in the
Right.
So it is our anticipation that at some point in time, a signal will be needed at that spot. When does that occur? It's really gonna be who goes first and who develops first. That's kind of, I know that's not the answer you like to hear, but this project doesn't necessarily warrant a signal by itself.
Sure. No, I get it. Thank you.
Mr. Dugan, we were made aware of this and by your staff, and we are aware that depending on how it goes, we might have to participate on that.
You'd be willing to
Yes.
participate in that? Thank you.
Chris, any comments from your side?
No, sir.
Louis?
Those are.
Everett?
No, sir.
Patrick? Charlie? Robert? Okay. Russell?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank
Appreciate it very, very much. At this time, what we'd like to do is, we have a list of people that we'd like to call to come to the front of the room, to the podium. When you get up, please state your name and your address for the record, because we just have towns here, et cetera, and we will hear your comments. What we'd like to do, like at the county board meetings, is limit this to 3 minutes, each comment. Patrick, could I ask you to time this for us? Okay. First, I'd like to call Mr. Jerry Morse from Indian Trail. Mr. Morse, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Jerry Morse. I'm on Indian Trail Town Council. I live at 271 Unionville Indian Trail Road. I'm very familiar with this area. I've lived here all my life. I'm actually located at Highway 74. I'm opposed to this project the way it's being presented right now. And the main opposition is due to the apartment aspect of it. If this was more in line with townhomes out in that area and single-family homes, that would maintain the same character. But, you know, just to put apartments in this beautiful place that's just because it's beautiful and we can make money on it is not the reason why to do it. I'm hopeful that we can use good common sense and do some real planning, and that's identify corridors that where the high density could go and should go. How does that tie into the Silver Line as well? That's coming from Matthews, potentially into Stallings and Indian Trail. We're working closely with Stallings now to try to identify a corridor so that we can preserve that area for more higher intensified development. I don't see how putting a real densely populated population out in that particular area without any foresight on how to move those persons from that area into places like Charlotte and wherever. So we had a meeting at our town hall where we had a lot of residents in that area come and speak about this, and this was last week. Unfortunately, I was attending another meeting. I believe I was at the MPO meeting at that time, and I believe it was about 95% of the folks there were in opposition to this. And again, it goes back to the apartments. If we could somehow work together between Indian Trail and Union County in that area, instead of it being right up on our doorstep and we have no voice in this matter, I think that's counterproductive. So I would encourage the planning board here to even work with our planning board, as we have reached out to the county commissioners and are working with them on similar subject matter. So I just want to take the moment to thank you for allowing me to come and speak out about this, and I hope that you will not approve this or recommend it to the county commissioners for approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. But before you leave,
yes, sir.
I'll clarify one thing. You identified yourself as a member of the board?
A member of the Indian Trail Council, yes, sir.
Okay. Are you speaking for the council?
I am speaking for myself.
For yourself?
Yes, sir.
I want that on the record, that you're speaking strictly for yourself and not the council.
Yes, sir, absolutely. We plan, as far as a council, to get together and then having a voice coming back before the county commission to speak.
No problem. Just wanted clarification.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Mike Head from Indian Trail. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr.
Well, I
Hammond.
appreciate the opportunity to speak. I am also on Indian Trail Town Council, and I'm speaking only for myself. I live at 2105 Bonterra Boulevard, so I'm very familiar with the area. A couple things that concern me, as Jerry pointed out, is the apartments. If I'm not mistaken, these are the first apartments that are being looked at from a Union County standpoint. And it bothers me personally that it's going into the city limits of Indian Trail. So you get to use the roads, all of our infrastructure, and we don't get any of the money. One of the things I'd like to talk about is the sidewalks. Living there are currently no sidewalks on that portion of Poplin. The sidewalks go from the entrance, the stable entrance of Bonterra towards Annandale and Fieldstone Farms. On the opposite side of where these, well, it'd be on the same side, but if you look, they would have to cross the road, go all the way down by the apartments, I mean, all the way down the stables to get to the sidewalks. So there's no sidewalk connection right now to Poplin Elementary, other than on the opposite side, and I guess it would be on the north side. The other concern, like I said, is we're hoping that we can have a little more joint effort and discussion as to what fits in, especially when it's within the city limits of Indian Trail, to see what works best for both of us. And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hammond. Appreciate you taking your time coming out tonight.
You're welcome.
Next speaker is Mr. Bill Nicolai. Mr. Nicolai? Thanks for coming out tonight.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm Bill Nicolai. I live at 5906 Bonterra Village Way. It used to be 5906 Poplin Road. It's the big square there, right there, sitting inside the where Bonterra is. And my main issue here is the same as the other two guys, is the apartments. That being laid there, I'm right across the street with that. I mean, to be on my own side and say, hey, I want to have do the same thing with mine, maybe I would, but I just look at the whole piece of that land. I've been there for 10 years, and it's open, you know, there's 10 acres, 20 acres, and it's open, you know, it's open stuff. The apartments, like I said, I have an issue with that. You know, 3 or 4 or 5 per acre houses, just like we are behind us. That, you know, I think that's tight enough. And I think as far as the traffic goes down the road, you know, if all this starts getting built, which is great, and like I say, I just think the apartments is not a good mix for where this community has been and where it should go. So that's all I got to say.
May I ask you a quick question, sir? You've got N/A, means you're neither for it or you're against it.
Well,
Which are you?
you know, I just put that on at the start, but I'm not for the apartment part of this. I'm for the project, but not the apartments.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak either in favor or opposition to this? Okay, there seems to be no one. So what I'd like to do is ask Bjorn to come back up and give us a final recommendation on the project.
Based on the analysis of this by staff and looking at the existing comprehensive plan and the small area plan that was completed with Indian Trail in 2018, staff has recommended this to the planning board for approval as presented with the conditions that were the result of staff, NCDOT, and community comments at the community meeting that was held in the past month.
Warren, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
You said Indian Trail, the comprehensive plan.
The small area plan.
Right, I understand.
Right.
Small area plan, I'm sorry, but you guys had met with Indian Trail about this whole area right around here, right?
We each paid 50% for a consultant to help assist us with the analysis of it.
So this
Yes,
is
sir.
not a surprise to Indian Trail that we're doing this?
Well, the land use plan is certainly not a surprise. What we're referencing here, we would both reference the same things. And at a staff level, we've certainly been in contact for quite some time about this. We met probably 7 months ago regarding coordinating the traffic impact analysis for the 2 developments.
You know, I guess my thought about that is the apartments that went in downtown Indian Trail on that 2-lane road going both ways, that's a whole lot more congested than what talking about putting them right there. A whole lot more congested than what Indian Trail did right downtown Indian Trail. That's just my thought.
Right,
So-
I want to make sure the board sort of understands that, you know, the work on the small area plan with Indian Trail and with the county was a joint effort. And the interpretation of how you reach the density that is suggested in there is up to each jurisdiction. So it doesn't stipulate that those density levels are strictly single family, townhomes, or apartments. It gives a density range that we are trying to aspire to, and each jurisdiction can decide what is the mixed housing type that can meet that. I think the project itself says it's about 7.1 units per acre. That's right around the range of what the density is for that area. But that doesn't mean that certainly the board can't consider changes to that. I just want to point out that it's up to each jurisdiction to decide how you interpret that density. Certainly someone could come in and say, I want to do 6 units per acre, single family units. That is certainly a request someone could make, and that would be consistent with the plan. So what this particular applicant has done is sort of split the housing type to try and accommodate different users of the housing type. And if that's a board, you know, if you feel that that's an appropriate use, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. It's what the board feels appropriate for the county.
Okay. Any other comments for Bjorn? Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir.
Appreciate it. This time, would no further comments from the public, either for or against, would like to close the public comments portion of this agenda item. And now I'd like to open it up for the planning board to discuss this request without further input from the group that are in attendance. And do we need any clarification, any more input from the planning staff, the applicant, et cetera?
I do want to bring up to the board that one of the goals of the small area plan was to work with Indian Trail on stormwater requirements. And we discussed this between the 2 staffs and the town. The town and the county haven't reached any final agreement on that. There's a lot of details that go along with it. But I did mention to the developer earlier that that may be something that certainly could be considered. Our stormwater rules are not quite as stringent as Indian Trail stormwater rules are. They've got a little bit more stuff that you have to comply with. They're similar, but there's some differences. That would be something the board could discuss with the developer as an option. If you have concerns about that, they are planning to meet our requirements for stormwater, which is good. They're not bad, but Indian Trail is a little bit higher. That's something to think about. And don't forget that you can discuss conditions that you'd like for the applicant to consider. That's what this process is about.
Okay, thank you, Brian, appreciate that. So, do the members here have any more clarification, or from, like we said, from the staff for the applicant.
Bjorn, can you just put up the general overall map with the proposed housing, just so?
The site plan?
Yeah, just the site plan, please. Thank you.
What's your thoughts, Chris? You have any further thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, just my concern is that intersection getting onto Unionville Indian Trail Road. You know, how we can come about, if we're gonna put all these units in, assuming a lot of people are going to be using that Monroe Expressway, you're gonna be taking left turns out of there, right turns out of there. You know, that's a concern of mine. The only other thing I would have is, I know last month we had a whole conversation regarding a age-restricted and/or assisted living facility or along those lines. Perhaps that would be more palatable of a development to the surrounding area than the apartments. You know, I'm not the one developing it, so I don't have to pay for the plans or the engineering or to figure all that out. But those are my two thoughts, is just that intersection. One, will it be controlled? And if we're looking at a stop sign, it's gonna get crazy out there once it goes in, depending on how far along back the commercial development is before the signal gets in. You know, if the applicant is willing to push for some type of signal with DOT, or I know the DOT doesn't require it, something along those lines, you know, that would be good for me.
Thank you. Any other comments? Robert?
Yeah, I think the majority of traffic that's going to come out of here is going to head right and get down to the interstate and head into town, or you know, at some point maybe go down to 74 itself. But I'm thinking primarily they're going to go right and they're going to hit the interstate and they're going to go down there. And we had this discussion last time, and part of the issue was, or part of the idea that I agreed with is doing some development that was nearby where people could access, in case there was emergencies, they could access the freeways to get to the hospitals and that sort of thing, and be in an area where they had some major routes so that the fire services can get there. And so I like the position of this in that way, and I think because of the coincidental development across the street, which is, as far as I remember, it's cleared out and ready to go. Last time I went by there, but it's all going to get built up, and I'm pretty sure they're probably going to have to put a signal there. But so,
okay,
I like it.
Any more discussion? Any of the other members of the board here?
Yeah, it's not going to be nearly as bad as. See, Bonterra used to come all the way out on Poplin Road and came there to Unionville Indian Trail, so every vehicle in Bonterra came through Poplin Road. Charlie, am I correct? And how many homes in Bonterra now have been eliminated from coming out Poplin Road? Could you tell me? 700?
If I could guess, it's between 500 and 700, but I don't know the actual total. It's a large development, but I don't know the totals.
And there's no more Bonterra comes out Poplin Road.
There's no more connection to Poplin Road.
That's exactly right. So therefore, there is actually less traffic on Poplin Road than there has ever been.
As we said, no.
Okay.
I tend to say that you have certainly reduced the traffic.
It has been reduced tremendously because Bonterra does not come out there. So I'm going to tell you, as a resident in that community, this is a non-issue. I'm being honest. And also, I want to clarify one other thing. Who approved the 8 units per acre beside Bonterra?
Did we? The most recent one, the county, that was an approved project by the county. So the one one that came to this board back in 2018, is that the one you're talking about?
Well, the one that's right between this development and Bonterra.
That was approved by the county.
And it was 8.0 units per acre.
8.5, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 8.5 units per acre for those townhomes.
And this is 7.1.
The total density, 7.1. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Everett. Any other comments from any other member that has not spoken? Okay.
I will have one.
Yes, Lou.
I look at this, at the density here. I moved to Union County 20 years ago to be out in the country. Surprise, surprise. Everywhere I go on the western periphery, where I have the highest development, there's traffic. I'm in the process now of moving my residence from Stallings to Monroe. But I can, in the morning, I can leave but the development I live in and head toward Monroe on Monroe Road. And before I cross Indian Trail Road, I have to wait 3 or 4 lights. My concern is the density here, 7.1 residents per acre, would tend to do the same thing moving forward across the county to give us tremendous density. Yet in the last 20 years, the road growth has not kept up with it. We've had problems with schools, but I'm not too concerned about that. The only thing that makes me think I would vote for this one is the proximity to that Monroe bypass, because that can bleed some people off. But if it were not for that, I would be standing up here saying, no, I don't think we should do that. Reduce the density and get a little less people per acre. But you have a really super good road that runs a lot of people in and out of there. So I would be prone to approve this, but only because of this proximity to a real super highway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, did you want to say something?
No, he hasn't. Did on what I was interested in.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Hearing none, then what I'd like to do is ask for a motion and a second to either approve or disapprove. But I want to make sure that there's no more discussion from the board here. Okay. Is there a motion to be brought before the board?
I make a motion we approve the project.
Russell, motion to approve?
And I say,
Okay, thank you very much, Everett. Appreciate that. So with that, we will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving, please raise your right hand. All those disapproving it, like sign, raise your right hand.
I'm in the middle, I'm abstaining, I suppose.
I mean, you're.
You know, the only thing I would ask is,
It's 6-1, I just want to make sure.
yeah,
we
no,
have-
I'm gonna approve. 7-0.
There's no pressure, we just.
No,
want to be able
no,
to have a active
again, my
record.
concern is over that, if the developer would, you know, provide some assurances that you're gonna work to get that Poplin Road interchange. I mean, that's gonna be my concern. I get what you're saying, Everett, but, you know, next month, we could have another application that's gonna develop 4 or 5 more other properties right around it, and you're gonna put a whole bunch of more properties onto it. So looking at it just in the snapshot, sure, that's great, that cars can get in and out, but we gotta plan for long-term too. And I'm approving.
When they built Bonterra Drive in Union, and they put Poplin Road like it is, they eliminated a tremendous bottleneck. I have no idea who paid for it.
But it's not to say the bottleneck won't come back, is what I'm saying. Just because you remove something doesn't mean you're not gonna put some more on there.
So, again, the motion did not include the additional conditions, but I know Chris's concern has to do with, you know, the development working towards signalizing the intersection. We can have a conversation with the developer about that and discuss that when it goes to the commissioners, because this is not an approval, this is a recommendation.
Right.
The council, actually, the commissioners make the decision, and that can be a discussion we have with the developer about how that conversation is structured. He's already mentioned that he understands that if the signal is to go in, he may have to
just ask the developer to work with the planning department to have that discussion.
Brian, clarification, so the vote was
7-0.
7-0? Okay, I want to make sure. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. This time, I'd like to thank everybody that came out tonight. Appreciate you working with us on the 3 minutes. You guys did great. It's the first time that I can think of that the comments have been kept at a reasonable length. Appreciate the civility, and I wish y'all a safe drive home. Thank you very much.
So everyone is aware, the way our process normally works is traditionally this would be scheduled for the March 4th Board of Commissioners meeting. That is not in stone yet. We have to submit the request. It has to be advertised, but that's generally how it works. Those that receive notice of the hearing will receive a notice. This meeting will receive a notice. We'll also publish something in the newspaper. We'd like to give that specific date and time. But at this point in time, it's anticipated it will be in this room, March 4th at 7 p.m. That is a public hearing. Again, you're allowed to speak, give your comments, and the Board of Commissioners has to make the decision on the project. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda is the planning staff report.
So, just a couple of things. First off, we worked with Don on coming up with what we call the order of business, and I hope that you appreciated that, because what that kind of helps Don, it helps us do, is really sort of keep on track as to what we do. We don't bounce all around. We know what you're expecting us to do. Sometimes we never do if you wanted us to come back up and give a recommendation or not. So we have a structure. It is fluid. So if you decide you don't like the way it's working and you want to change something, please, by all means, let's get it out there. This was our first attempt. And Don was okay with that. He said, let's get it out there. Let's try it, see how the thing will work with that. So, yeah, I think that at least helped us a little bit. Also, just sort of let the board know, I will be taking on an expanded role with the county. I know you mentioned to me earlier, but I just want to tell you publicly, I've been appointed as the assistant county manager, and I will be taking on a number of the development units. So I'll have building code, planning, zoning, public works, environmental health, all underneath me operationally, and then we'll have another assistant county manager. He'll actually take on what he calls resident services. That's parks, libraries, the EMS, fire, and also the emergency management. And then our current assistant manager will be promotion to deputy county manager. She'll continue with human services. She'll have the finance and the tax under her. So we're excited about it. Today was the first official day, so we've got a lot to do. But I will not necessarily be coming to all the meetings, but I will still come because this is my passion. This is what I love. So I will certainly be involved in it, and it's underneath my purview anyway. So.
Just keep your phone on, okay?
I will keep my phone on.
1-800-BRIAN.
Dick has already said that, you know, that he doesn't want to lose one of his planners, so we're going to have to figure out how to make that work.
All right, before we call on Dick.
Consolidated a lot more of my calls, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Environmental health.
Bjorn, any comments from your side?
We are working on, like, the map showing the old alignment for Popland Road. We are working with the municipalities throughout the county on a number, probably at least a dozen, amendments to the map, the comprehensive transportation plan map, which will, one, take away these unnecessary or just flat out wrong connections which affect property owners when you have a line across your property and there's no plans on it, no commitment to it being built. That's an unnecessary hardship, so we're cleaning that up. And we're also to focus on for grant applications and implementation with the NCDOT municipalities, both of those will be complete by late summer.
Okay. Dick, closing comments?
Yes, very shortly, probably when the weather gets a little better, we'll be starting the update of the comprehensive plan. It won't be a complete rewrite, but it'll be taking that as a base and updating it. So, based on the last 5 years, the growth, the things we've learned, how it's been used, in rezoning, so hopefully come up with a better plan that will be, give us more guidance about rezoning and future growth. So, we'll be starting that shortly.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go to general comments from everybody, I'd like to make one announcement. Russell contacted me and said that he would like to be replaced as our liaison to the CRPTO board. We want to thank Russell and his lovely bride for making all those meetings and everything. And we need someone to take on Russell's responsibility. Russell, we owe you a big debt of gratitude. Every time you had a report, you gave us either emailed it or gave us a paper copy of what was going on, and we thank you for the time that you've done. So does anybody have an interest in taking that? If not, we'll study on it and put it on the agenda for next month for a final decision. So is anybody interested?
What it consists of is you go downtown Charlotte once a month and you meet with all the regional people, which is the mayors of all the towns of Iredell, the mayor or the representative, Iredell, Mecklenburg, and Union. And they talk about the roads, all the future plans for transportation, railroads, airport. I mean, it's pretty neat. And then they have other meetings besides that are very informative. We went down to Gastonia one night and was with that group, and I thought it was a great meeting, and a lot of real neat things to do. It's just hard especially in the winter when it's dark and cold, you gotta go down in the basement, come back out of the basement. If it's raining stuff, it's hard for me and Kathy to get around, but it's really park across the street, parking's free. The meetings are very interesting, they really are. And if I was back on my feet again, I'd go and we'd go. But it's her lugging this wheelchair in and out and trying to get across in the dark. It's hard to do. But for some of you younger guys, it's really fun. I mean, I enjoy it. Because being in real estate, I could tell people, here's Providence Road's going to be done, and here's the plans for the future. But like you said, there's not a lot of money. I mean, they're talking 25 years out, aren't they, Warren, on some of this stuff? So, I mean, it's neat to be there, and if I was able, like I say, I'd keep going. So any of you younger guys, you learn a lot, you really do, So.
Is it a set day a month?
What?
Every third Tuesday or?
Is it Wednesday? Is it Wednesday night?
Second or third Wednesday of each month.
Yeah, and it's really not a long meeting, and they feed you your meals there. You go in.
Chris is going in.
Yeah, I'm going for the food.
This is a non-voting position, so the county has a voting member on that, but this is a non-voting.
But you can certainly participate in the discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Probably the most vocal person there is Rick Becker. We have hardly any anyway. Projects, but it's a dialogue.
The gentleman that got up and spoke from Indian Trail, the first one, he's on the board, and you get to meet a lot of nice people too. I mean, the mayor of Charlotte's there, and she is very active. The last mayor was not. This lady, she's in the meetings, she participates. You do meet a lot of different people across the board of what's going on in our region. So, and it's interesting, I think.
So who else is interested besides Chris?
I'd be interested, but I know that I'm very new to this board, so.
That's what we're asking.
Chris.
No.
Anybody else?
My wife would appreciate you taking that off of my mind.
What I'd like to do, if it's okay, if there is any other interest and you want to contact Brian, do that. But what I'd like to do is put this on as a discussion subject and a vote.
next month's meeting. We've got 2 candidates right now, but there's others that can put their name in the hat. And we'll vote on it. Okay, Russell, thank you for your time.
And I'm.
Kathy, thank you so much.
Yes, Cassie, thank you.
Give her a hand. Okay, any other comments from the board?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Let me turn off the stuff before we ask for a sideboard conversation. Know how that goes.
He's a little worried about before we get real rough on that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because I can dig you out before that. It's off.
And bought his first rental house, it was like 60. And
Right.
he had money in the bank. Somebody talked to him about buying some